What's good, y'all? After making the biggest trade in the offseason, the Milwaukee Bucks came into this season with pretty high expectations, most people having them at minimum the 2 seed out east. And when the season actually began, things were not going as well as people thought over in Milwaukee. They started off with a record of 5-4, but that quickly turned around as in their last 15 games, they are now 12-3, which is the best record in that span in the entire NBA. With Giannis playing at an MVP level, Damian Lillard finally finding his footing out here in Milwaukee, and then their role players also all playing their role to perfection, this Milwaukee Bucks team is as scary as advertised. I want to start by talking about the leader of this Milwaukee team, and that is, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is playing MVP caliber basketball right now. Averaging 32 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists on 62% shooting. It's incredible what he produces on the offensive side, and on the defense, he's no slouch either with 1.3 blocks and a steal and a half. Just to put some of those numbers into perspective, those 32 points per game for Giannis is a career high for him and ranks him 3rd in the entire league. His field goal percentage is also a career high at 62%, and that puts him at 8th in the league. And then in his rebound department as well, his just barely under 11 rebounds per game ranks 6th. Needless to say, he is dominating whatever matchup is in front of him on a night-to-night basis, and that domination comes from the fact that he owns the paint. He's shooting 83% on shots at the rim, which is 2nd best in his whole career, and also shooting 51% on shots from 3 feet out to 10 feet out. That's kind of like his little, you could call that floater range, but for Giannis, where he's really utilizing and becoming so efficient in that area is on his little turnaround, like baby jumper. I don't really know what you want to call it, but he'll kind of post up, and then he's really efficient at that turnaround and just cash right there, as you see, as I mentioned, 51% from the field in that area right there, which is by far a career best. Really leads into him shooting a career high 62% from the field. Both Giannis and the Bucks seem to just want to try to get him as close to the basket as possible, as many times as possible during the game. Something I realized that they're doing this season a lot is they'll let Giannis just take the ball up, whether it's off a defensive rebound where he just pushes it or they inbound it to him, but he'll bring the ball up and then they'll set a really high screen on his guy about like the 3-point line, just so Giannis can go down, get downhill with a lot of pace and try to just attack, some open space down there, get to the rim, and it's either going to be a dunk, a layup, or free throws 90% of the time. And I do want to bring up the free throw conversation with Giannis because he is coming off of his career high 64-point game where he shot a career high 32 free throw attempts and made a career high 24 free throws. Obviously, that is a whole lot of free throws, and if you just look at the stat sheet, you got to think, oh, he's a foul baiter, he was doing all this. That's not the case. If you actually watch this specific game and then also just watch Giannis play basketball in general, you see that a lot of the fouls he gets are real fouls. The players cannot stop Giannis. He is too physical, too fast, too strong, too big, and they foul him, and then he shoots free throws. It's not really a hard concept for me. I don't really get why, so many so many people on Twitter and everything are calling him a foul baiter and everything. In this game specifically, where he shot his career high free throws, every single one of those were actual fouls. If you go back and watch, you will see they're grabbing his arm, they're wrapping him up and taking him to the ground. Like, they were fouling Giannis in this game, no doubt about it. And if we're being honest, the league is lucky that he is not an elite level free throw shooter or even an average free throw shooter. He's only shooting 68% from the free throw line this season. And if you just think if he shot like 75, 80% from the free throw line, this man would be averaging damn near 37 points per game. Of course, it's not just Giannis who's leading the Bucks to this many victories. They did just make the big blockbuster trade to get Damian Lillard over here, and now that he's really finding a place for himself in Milwaukee, it's helping the team a lot. Dame was really struggling to start the season here in Milwaukee, but in this last 15 games, he has been absolutely stellar, averaging 25 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists, while also getting his 3-point percentage back up to 37. I gotta say, the turnaround for Dame has been pretty impressive. The first 7 games of the season, he shot 40% from the field and 29% from 3, and it wasn't just his scoring that was struggling too. Playmaking-wise, he was only averaging 4 assists per game in those games as well. He sat out for those 2 games for some type of injury. I'm not remembering right now, but then he came back and he's just been going since. When I made my preseason preview video on the Bucks, it was right after Dame got traded, and I mentioned that I think Dame coming to Milwaukee is going to bring out the more playmaking side of him. You know, he is a pretty underrated playmaker if you ask me over there in Portland for all these years, and now he's playing alongside Giannis. You know, Giannis is a great scorer as we're seeing right now, so you know, he's obviously still Damian Lillard, gonna get his shots off, gonna score, gonna close out games, hit these crazy shots, all that. But I just figured he would be more playmaking first and then kind of be, you know, the Robin to Giannis's Batman. And like I said, in the first 7 games of the season, he really wasn't playmaking like that. He wasn't scoring. He really wasn't making much of a positive impact on the games. And then ever since, he kind of just like flipped the switch and he's been focusing more on the playmaking. And I think he kind of realized, all right, if my shot's not falling, I know it's going to eventually fall, but right now I got to figure out some way to make a positive impact on this team. And that's where the playmaking came out. He was just dishing, getting everyone involved. In this sample size, he's had 4 games of 10 plus assists and then another 3 games of 9 assists. So he's really flirting with those double-digit assist numbers right there. As we saw in this last 15, he's been averaging 8 assists per game. For his whole career, Dame has been a great pick-and-roll ball handler. You know, he hugs the screen tight. He can pull up for 3 if they're dropped. He can attack the space, get to the rim, make the pass right there, skip pass to the corner. He can really do anything out of the pick-and-roll. And a lot of people, including myself, kind of expected him and Giannis to run the pick-and-roll a lot in Milwaukee. They're not running it a lot, but it is still amazing. Really, the biggest pick-and-roll partner that we've seen in Milwaukee with Dame right now is Brook Lopez, and Brook Lopez has been stellar in the pick-and-roll as well. We'll talk a little bit more about Brook later in the video, but in the pick-and-roll, his big 7-foot body setting the screens. He's a great roller. He rolls hard. He's also a pick-and-pop threat for Dame as well. He just kind of, it's really dynamic, that pick-and-roll between the two of them, and it's just been great to watch. And then, of course, when you're talking about Damian Lillard, you got to talk about the three-point shot, and that's starting to fall for him as well. I do really think him focusing on the playmaking and kind of just slowing down the game and calming down. I'm sure there's a lot going through his head being in this new city all the way across the country and everything. You know, new teammates and all that for the first time in his career. So I'm sure it was a lot. He kind of just cooled down, slowed the game down with the playmaking, and now the offense is coming from him scoring-wise. And the pairing of Giannis and Dame is scary enough, but then when you add on the fact that their role players are just really playing amazing basketball, this team seems unstoppable at times. The 2 role players that I really wanted to highlight, though, were Brook Lopez and Malik Beasley. Both players have been absolutely incredible for Milwaukee. Brook's having a pretty good season, you know, 13 points, 6 rebounds, shooting pretty well, but where he really is making his impact in Milwaukee is his defense, leading the league in blocks per game at 3. And then Malik Beasley has been incredible after coming in on a minimum this season. He has been shooting lights out, almost 46% from 3, averaging 12 points per game. When Milwaukee traded Jrue Holiday for Damian Lillard, everyone knew that their perimeter defense was going to drop a little bit at least. You know, obviously, Jrue Holiday, one of, if not the best perimeter defender in the entire NBA, swapping him out for Dame, who is a average at best defender. You know, you knew there was going to be some type of fall off. Luckily for Milwaukee, though, they still have Brook Lopez down low, just absolutely owning the paint on the defensive side. Anyone that touches the paint is going to feel the presence of Brook, whether that's a contest, a block, or they just see him and they're like, I'm good actually. I'm gonna get out of here. Kick the ball out. I'm not going up on you. And I really do think that Brook is just the perfect center to pair next to a player like Giannis because they kind of just mask each other's weaknesses. You know, Brook is a great rim protector that allows Giannis to kind of just roam because he is an amazing help defender. Brook is not the best rebounder, but Giannis is an incredible rebounder at the power forward position. And then the biggest one of all, Giannis, he's not a big shooter. We've just spent the whole beginning of this video talking about how he lives in the paint and dominates the paint. Well, luckily, Brook at 7 foot can go out to the 3-point line and spot up and spread the floor, you know, or just open it up completely for Giannis so he can just go right down there and just yam on people. It's really just a match made in heaven. And then speaking of spreading the floor and opening up for Giannis, Malik Beasley, oh my God, has he been absolutely incredible for Milwaukee. Before the season started, I made a video talking about the most underrated free agent signings, and Malik Beasley was on that list, and, you know, shout out to him. He has been absolutely incredible. Milwaukee were able to sign him on just a minimum, and he has just been hooping for them. He is their 5th leading scorer on the team off 99% of his shots being catch and shoot shots. He literally just spots up, boom, or come down in transition, catch, shoot, cash. And then real quick, I do want to give a shout out to Marjon Beauchamp, who has been great shooting off the bench for them as that wing position. You know, I was kind of questioning who would get those minutes at the wing. Marjon has stepped up and just been a knockdown shooter for them. A little bit of defense in there as well, but just mostly come in, not hit some threes, get right back onto the bench. Cameron Payne has also been a good signing for them this offseason, also on the minimum. He comes in, runs some backup point guard, runs the offense for a little bit, and then comes out. Just, you know, keeps it simple for him, but he's doing a pretty good job at it, so shout out to him. And then also Jay Crowder, he was an incredible 3-and-D wing for them before he got hurt. I'm not really sure if there's an actual timetable of when he's coming back or how long he's going to be sitting out. But when they get Jay Crowder back too, that just kind of bolsters up their roster. And I'm giving all of this praise to Milwaukee, and I haven't even mentioned Chris Middleton's name once. He's coming off of injury right now, and you know, they're taking it really slow with him, but he just really hasn't looked as aggressive offensively. I guess that's kind of what happens when you bring in a guy like Damian Lillard. But for him to be basically averaging damn near the same points per game as Malik Beasley, it's a little concerning for me right now. You know, obviously, like I said, they're doing so amazing without him being at, you know, full strength or being at the Chris Middleton we know. So I guess that's a good thing. Same thing kind of goes with Bobby Portis. He's been kind of shaky off the bench. I don't want to say shaky, actually, but not as consistent as we're used to seeing him. You know, he used to be almost a guaranteed double-double off the bench. You know, the rebounding's been down. The three-point shooting's been down. He just hasn't been the same Bobby Portis we've seen. But for both these guys to be such important pieces in the Milwaukee Bucks championship run just a few seasons ago, for them to be still dominating and both those guys not being their full strength at what we know that they can be, that's pretty good news if you ask me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.